Well, I started off as a little kid going fishing with my dad, grew up on the river, and so I guess fish and fishing's always sort of been in my blood, and it's just always been an interest. And you know, when I was growing up as a kid, there were very few native fish to catch. Carp were just coming into the system, Murray cod had gone, and so I guess I always had it in my head that maybe that's an area that I could help. So I got into science and started working on native fish and just sort of followed the passion really, and that led ultimately to putting science into management and the native fish strategy. Been there from start to finish. I was one of the original authors, did all the early public consultation before it was actually an idea, and then right through I've been on advisory panels and went through the review, and now we're actually trying to plan where native fish management goes, you know, post sort of the demise of the funding for the native fish strategy. I hate to say it, but I don't think the strategy's dead or the concepts are dead. It's about taking it forward from here. So that's what we're sort of working on now. I think it's been a real evolution. You know, it started off very basic. The strategy was more about technical things and a framework and getting it together and really to try and raise the status of fish up there. I mean, prior to that, most river management was just about delivering water for irrigation. There was a little bit of water going to wetlands. There was really no water or coordinated rehabilitation for fish. And, you know, the fish management was done by the states really, and it just needed to be a more coordinated approach. So out of that we got a framework together, got the states together, everyone started working together, which is great. But then I think the real thing was that a whole lot of other people came into the fold, and that's when things really started to progress. You know, a whole lot of crazy stuff started happening with, you know, people who hadn't normally been involved, you know, school kids and, you know, models of fish and, you know, getting people out there, and Native Fish Awareness Week and just making people aware. You know, Indigenous culture came in, which hadn't been given any consideration. And there was just sort of a whole groundswell, you know, and ultimately, you know, in support of the strategy, we ended up having the Australian Conservation Foundation, the irrigators, and the anglers all putting out a joint media statement saying, we love this thing. And these are guys from disparate parts of, you know, resource management, often been in conflict with each other, and they're all together saying, this is a great thing, let's move on, you know, we need to keep this going. So that, you know, that's ultimately the highlight, I think, when you end up with that sort of consortium together. We've made a whole lot of, you know, a whole lot of progress, and probably more importantly, a whole lot of connections. So people need to stay together in those connections. And there just needs to be another vehicle to take this forward. I mean, it's just sort of unfortunate we've been caught in politics and budgets at the moment. So the decisions that have been made haven't really got anything to do with fish. Everyone's saying this is positive. Everyone's you know, greatly gratified by the amount of work. The track record is really good. You know, all that's positive. It's just about finding the next vehicle to take it forward. And, you know, we're working on that, and hopefully, you know, when some politics and departments get sorted out, someone else will pick it up and off we go. But it's caused a massive change, and I don't think we can go back from that, but we need to make sure that we don't sort of just regress from that. You know, we need to keep the momentum going. We've sort of claimed the space, you know, in terms of, you know, the processes that we've got, made a lot of progress, but, you know, at the moment we're in the 10 years, and it's the first 10 years, so it's the establishment 10 years of what was a 50-year time frame. You know, it's a big job to try and fix native fish populations. They've taken a real hammering. You know, estimate we're at 10%. We want to get to 60% of what they were before, you know, before Whitefella, you know, stuffed things up. And yeah, that's where we need to go. So there's a lot of work still to be done. You know, this is a harsh country, and our fish are used to harsh conditions, and they're very resilient. They can get knocked around and they can bounce back. So that's always room for optimism, but we don't want them to go off the edge, can't allow them to go off the edge. So as long as we've got things in place to redress some of the problems that we've caused, and that's what the native fish strategy is about. It's about threat abatement and how we can fix things up. A lot of really good science has gone into this, and some really good management and some really world-class science to management progression. So, you know, the fish waste program, you know, Cedar Lake Hume is just, you know, it's absolutely world-class, and we should trumpet that. And so that just shows what we can do. And, you know, so we just need to keep progressing. I mean, you know, the first, given us the establishment 5 years and another 5 years really, so in our first 10, I mean, there's been just enormous gains made. So, yeah, I think it is really positive. We just hit a bit of a road bump at the moment and we just need to keep going.